Drive. Drive.
Gosling.
Drive.
That was 2011, right?
Yes. So what was nominated with Drive?
The King's Speech, which
Yeah.
was the winner, I believe.
Yeah.
Inception, 127 Hours.
That was a
Fighter,
good year.
True Grit,
Oh,
Black
man.
Swan, Winter's Bone, The Social Network, The Kids Are Alright, and Toy Story 3.
Well, to be fair, the majority of that list is really good. Like Black Swan. Black Swan is great, in my opinion. Toy Story 3, there's no arguing with that. It's a good movie.
No.
Inception, I knew would not win. I knew it had no chance to win.
I
was actually kind of surprised it got nominated. It was good, but it was very, like we were just talking about last video, it was very plot-driven.
And that's the thing. It's a movie that it's done well. I feel like it has a very artsy feel to it, but I don't think it's something special.
Yeah, I mean, Inception's biggest strength is the very complicated plot. It was an interesting plot, layers of dreams, kicking. It was very well written.
Yeah.
I think that's its strength, was writing. It felt more blockbustery than artistic to me.
Did.
It really did. It felt like everything was on a big scale. There were a lot of explosions, a lot of different locations. It was more of a blockbuster than an art film, so I was kind of surprised to see it in that list. But then you have The King's Speech, which obviously I was not surprised that it won. It's what the Oscars look for. It's a very character-centric movie dealing with a personal impediment. If you have an illness, a mental illness, or a racist cause, you're gonna win an Oscar. It's one of those things where they just love people who
They just
are
always
anchored.
want to make a statement. I mean, the film was alright. It was just more of a dry film for me.
Oh, it was horribly dry. It's a very slow film, but it's
And-
good. It's got quality.
But it's just one of those things where they just want to be the Oscars, to some extent, is a bunch of people who just want to put their pinky out while they're drinking their tea and praise how exceptionally minded
The
they are
camera
as
work is
individuals.
supreme.
Oh, I love how you cried in that one scene, that one single tear. It was remarkably touching.
Just the perfect amount of tears, if only they could be added into my tea.
I love to supple on the tears of a infant child crying. It's so beautiful.
Perhaps the crowd should be changed to golf claps when we announce the nominees.
I don't want to sprain my wrist, after all.
So, that is a very powerful list of nominees. But Drive is a very commonly held movie. Like, if you Google right now movies that should have been nominated, Drive is going to be on that list.
Yeah, of
no
course.
matter what article you look
I
at.
mean, first off, when you think of Ryan Gosling, the first thing everyone thinks of is The Notebook. And don't get me wrong, he was a phenomenal actor in that movie. And you know what? I get it. He was the sweetheart for tons of teenage girls and adult women through that time period from his role. But like, this was a depth for him that nobody had seen prior to this on this level. And it really showed, even though he doesn't even talk that much in that movie.
But that's what makes him such a cool character,
It was just such a 180 from what you've seen from him, and it really showed you the depth of his skill set.
Yeah, Drive is another very unique movie, and it has that feeling. It feels very similar to No Country for Old Men, and There Will Be Blood, where it follows one person, pretty much, throughout the whole movie. He's very deep. He's a stunt driver for films, but he also, which is what makes it cool, is a getaway driver for heists. Like, people will do a bank job. He's not actually in the heists. He's the guy who just picks them up.
Yeah, it's basically like The Transporter, but with a much
But
more
it's
in-depth...
a way cooler version.
But I'm saying with a much more in-depth storyline.
And what's so cool about it is its realism. It feels so realistic. Like, all the fighting in it, when he squashes that guy's head like a watermelon in the elevator with his cowboy boot. And then the knife slashing on Hal from Malcolm in the Middle.
That
was
still,
rough.
when he cuts that guy's
it's like,
wrist.
You're like, oh my god! But you didn't even see it coming. He's like, it's okay. His fucking arm is like a hose. But it's really realistic. It feels very gritty.
It affects you. Like, you're watching it and you're...
But the thing Drive really does is it has that tone to it. There aren't a lot of movies that you watch where you can feel the tone. Like it feels very like impending doom. There's a lot of a lot of shit is gonna go down.
Yeah, it pulls you into a point where you're almost feeling the same emotions as the main character as he's going through these moments, because it recreates it in such a way that you just can't help but feel it.
Yeah, and he obviously is pretty savvy. Like, he knows what he needs to do when he knows that these gangsters are after him. And another thing that it does really, really well is cinematography. The way that movie is filmed, the camera movement, the way the cameras are placed is amazingly done. It is so intricate. There's actually a video which is on Vimeo, which I'll post in the description, which goes through the movie and it cuts out parts of the screen and shows you how the director draws your eye to just body motions. Like he does, there's one scene where he just blacks out the whole top half and all you see is the actors' hands at below their waists, and it tells the whole story just in their hand motions. I think he mutes the audio and you can tell what kind of conversation it is. It's so well shot. And then there's a lot of different hallway scenes where there's one thing going on way down the hallway and then there's something in the forefront, and that video will go through so many different shots and show you just how complicated the cinematography is. And
it is an impressive movie from start to finish.
And that's something that, cinematography is usually simply amazingly beautiful shots. It's usually, you watch The Lord of the Rings and you have these amazing New Zealand shots of this gorgeous mountain and these forests and this river. But Drive uses its cinematography to add so much, and that goes a long way.
It almost creates subplots. It's so intricate.
It really is, and if it's the type of movie you can watch over and over again and still appreciate, because it's really like watching. It sounds pretentious, but it's like watching art. It's just so cool because there's so much effort put into every little thing, and you watch Inception, which I really think is a good movie. I mean, I love that movie. But there's just not anywhere near as much depth in the way it was shot. It's beautiful, but there isn't as much depth in it.
You don't get that same feeling like whoever created this film poured everything he had into it.
Yeah. And it's, again, it's because it has so many intricacies with its writing and its character-driven and, and it's plot-driven, rather. And Drive it was very overlooked by the Academy. There's a lot of movies on that list I would say Drive is better than.
Oh, of course.
It's a shame. I forgot, Black Swan was great. I honestly, strictly speaking, think it's better than Inception on an artistic level.
Of course.
Because Inception feels like a blockbuster. It feels like... feels like not the Avengers, but it just feels like this big, cool thing to watch. It's not like this deep, deep, deep thing. I mean, the plot is complicated, but once you understand it...
It seems like they just tried to carbon copy something like The Matrix while putting their own twist on it, hoping almost to ride the curve.
It definitely does feel similar in the complications of the plot, and it has very good action, so I could definitely see that. So... Does it belong in the Oscars? I was glad it was recognized, but looking back at Drive, I would have rather have seen Drive.
Of course.
Edward Norton and Brad Pitt, that was a very powerful dynamic between those two that lasted the whole movie. And